Welcome to the Health In Show. We're an affiliate program of Homeopathy World Community. I'm your host, Debby Bruck, founder of Homeopathy World Community, a professional network for homeopaths, with our co-host, Dr. Deepak Sharma of New Delhi, India, running the Orbits Clinic. And give him a call if you have a question about homeopathy and need some assistance. We have a special guest today. That's Sergey Butenko. And he is someone that we should be honoring and following in his search for healing. As a young boy, he was diagnosed with juvenile diabetes, and the doctors gave him some recommendations that perhaps they still do today to young people who are diagnosed. But he went on a search for healing and went down a different pathway. And I found him by just my constant internet surfing and looking for good information about how to stay well no matter what, whether you have a chronic disease, whether you want to take a natural alternative approach, whether you want to change your diet or look into homeopathy, perhaps acupuncture, Reiki, lots of other ways. Stress reduction is a really big thing. But if you have something functionally wrong with your body, what do you do? And we're going to be talking to Sergey. It's right now for me on the East Coast. It is the morning, but if you're in New Delhi, it's in the evening. So, hello. And I want to also wish you a day ahead. Happy birthday.
Thank you so much. I will be 28 tomorrow, so that's very much appreciated.
And we're going to hear you tell about your story. The folks who are coming into the network on Nissan Communications, and I want to thank Amnon for being our fantastic producer and getting us up and running today. You can chat on the network there, and we'll look at your comments, or you can call in and ask any kind of questions you'd like at 919-518-9773 or via Skype at Computers2K Voice. Good day, Dr. Sharma.
Okay.
It's good to be here, you guys.
Yeah, we were just talking a little bit about the epidemic rates of obesity and diabetes, especially what were you telling us in New Delhi, in India, Dr. Sharma?
Yes, it is an increasing incidence of the diabetes, obesity, and hypertension is very rapidly in India. On every state, in every city, is it hurting. Even in the villages, the diabetes is hurting everyone. And the data says in 2025, India will be the great hub for the diabetic and hypertensive patient. The cause may be the stress, cause may be the metabolic disturbance. Either the diabetologist always says that diabetes is a metabolic disorder. So, and it is related with the obesity and other things. But we are always thinking about the homeopathically and searching for a diet management, good diet management, and it will always help. So I welcome to Sergey and happy to share with his thoughts.
Tell us what you found out.
Who are you talking to now?
Sergey. Just jump in anytime.
Okay, sounds great. Well, what I found out is that many supposedly irreversible conditions are easily reversed through a good diet, and this is something that the Western world doesn't publicize very often, because I think that being sick is hugely profitable. I don't know how radical you want me to get, but basically
we're very radical. We're very radical over here.
In 1993, everybody in my family got sick. My mother got diagnosed with arrhythmia. My sister got asthma. My father was diagnosed with hyperthyroid and arthritis, and I was diagnosed with juvenile diabetes. We went to conventional doctors. We saw several doctors over the course of our diagnosis, and we were all told exactly the same thing, that you had to take these drugs or medicines or insulins for the rest of your life, and you'd never get better. So somehow that didn't seem...
does that provide very much hope for you to say that you're going to be dependent upon these drugs and you will never get better? What was the spirit within you that went looking for some other answer?
Well, I was actually 9 years old at the time, so I had no idea what they were talking about. I just knew that I had these weird symptoms, and I'd go to the bathroom all the time, and living was uncomfortable. But my mother, who I'm very grateful to, decided to look for an alternative and started reading books on diabetes and arthritis and arrhythmia, and started consulting naturopathic doctors and allopathic doctors, just anything and everything that she could try. And at the time, in 1993, in Denver, Colorado, where we lived, there wasn't a whole lot of information about alternative remedies. So she got so desperate that she actually started asking healthy-looking people on the street.
Yeah.
Hey, do you guys know anything about health? Do you know anything about diabetes? And if you can imagine this sight, my mom, who had a very thick Russian accent at the time, would actually run up to people and be like, "Hello, has diabetes. Do you want to help him?" And scared quite a few runners until, by chance, or maybe it was meant to be, she met a lady who told her about eating a natural diet, and that's when our journey began. We started eating raw fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. And that pretty rapidly started improving our health. As a diabetic, I learned that food was not only, it wasn't enough just to eat healthy. I had to exercise vigorously, because if and when I exercised vigorously, I would burn excess sugar up in my bloodstream. So it was a very hardcore regime of eating fresh, organic vegetables, nuts, seeds, and grains, running, jumping on a trampoline, anything to get my blood and lymph pumping. And almost 20 years later, completely diabetes-free and loving life.
And you have more of a passion. I mean, the fact that, I think of Russian stock, very hearty, and I have background Russian stock too. And, we look for natural answers, and Amnon tells me stories about putting onions on his knee and, finding the old wives' tales and the things that your grandmother used to do to get you healthy. And so you were very dependent upon nature, upon what you found out in the wild. And I know that you have more than a passion just for healing yourself. You're speaking out and talking to people. You just did a great big, I don't know whether it was a webinar or something with the folks in India, and for November 14th was World Diabetes Day. So the word is out. People are searching for answers. People want to know what to do, but it's hard for them for some reason to take it within their own personal responsibility. What is it that you are doing to help people?
Well, I think the best and only thing I can really do is share my own story. I'm not a doctor. I never tell people, I never give them advice or tell them what they should do. And in this country, there's a huge amount of liability on me.
Yeah.
To be sued or even in jail for doing what I do. So I try and make it very clear that I'm not recommending for anybody to do anything. I'm just sharing my story. And then if you guys choose to do something, that's completely up to you. And I always recommend getting a doctor, finding a cool doctor that would supervise you and help you through it, and kind of...
what about like a nutritionist or a dietitian? What about that? Would that type of a support person be helpful?
That would be helpful, yeah. But I definitely, for diabetics specifically, I recommend that you find a doctor who's willing to work with you to reduce your dosage or just try new things. And so to answer your question, that was kind of a waiver on my part, but to answer your question about what I'm doing, I'm just hopefully doing enough interviews and traveling and doing enough
Right.
lectures to let people know that there is an alternative and that you don't just have to go on synthetic insulin or get a pancreas transplant if you're unfortunate enough to have diabetes.
Yeah, we have many stages of life when a person could incur this disease. And
Absolutely.
for women during gestation, during pregnancy, they could get this diagnosis. Although, in just about every case, we don't exactly know who is going to get this disease. We don't know what the trigger is going to be. Why? At age 9, were you diagnosed with this disease? Did you have it before age 9? Did you have something change in your life that would have made it start up?
Mm-hmm.
These are questions we always have.
Yeah.
Dr. Sharma, do you have any comment in this area about times of life when diabetes can begin? Are you?
Yes.
Okay.
When in the juvenile diagnosis, the optimal age is diagnosing for the 3 to 8 years in the age when the juvenile diagnosis is diagnosed. Many of the diabeticians says that it is a 100% genetical disease, but I do not think so ever, because we are finding in the patient of juvenile diabetes that there is a history of suppressions, many kind of suppressions. Homeopathically, I am talking about the homeopathically history. I am just sharing a case of juvenile diabetes. She is 6 years of age, and she comes with a type 1 diabetes mellitus with celiac disease as diagnosed by the doctor. But when we are taking history, there is a suppression of eruptions, the suppression of chickenpox eruptions 3 years later. And we just prescribe the Thuza, and there is no insulin on today. The blood sugar is normal. Her transglutaminase enzyme is normal. That is testing for the celiac disease.
Mm-hmm.
So we do not think that type 1 diabetes is always a genetical disease. It may be a suppression of any kind of skin eruption, any kind of the thoughts, any kind of the suppression during the pregnancy or before the conception. Dr. Clark, in a Practical Mathematics, Dictionary of Practical Mathematics by Dr. J.H. Clark, show a case of juvenile diabetes which had a suppression of discharges in the males before the conception, and he prescribed the Thuza, and the children is get rid with the diabetes. That is why this history is important. So I never agree that it is 100% genetical disease. It is a kind of suppressions anytime.
Well, we would have to awaken the entire medical community to this type of introduction of other reasons why diabetes would occur besides just purely genetic, because everything is leading to genetics today, and they're looking for a vaccine for literally everything instead of looking for a holistic approach. We have a caller. Who's calling, please?
Hi, Debbie. This is Kavita.
Good day, Kavita. This is Kavita Kukunur. Do you have a comment for us?
Oh, sure. I myself had gestational diabetes when I had my second child. So the experience I had was really good, I should say. In the sense, like at third month, the doctors advised to have the insulin because it's not good for the baby. So, but I told them that I can take care of myself with the diet and exercise. So I did all throughout my pregnancy, and it was, I really enjoyed. And I was healthy and took all the nutritious food. So So I do agree with Sergey that diet, exercise plays a great role in controlling and stabilizing the sugar levels.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing
Yes.
that.
So exercise is a really large component for
Basically, diabetes is a metabolic syndrome, and it depends on the input and output of the calories. So what we are taking and what we are how we are using the calories. These are the situations where is the shown in the metabolic disease and in every kind of like obesity, like hypothyroidism, and like diabetes mellitus. All are metabolic disease. So it depends on the input and output of the calories. That's why the exercise is more important.
Sergey, do you said that you were doing really power exercise. You really were working hard at it. Is it something that we have to do, do you feel, every day, or is 3 times a week,
Yes.
4 times a week? Tell us about your experience.
My experience is that you have to do it every day and sometimes even twice a day, especially in the beginning stages. There were times when I literally couldn't go to sleep because I had to go to the bathroom. I had to go pee every 5 minutes. And so what my mom would make me do, even though I had run 4 or 5 miles in the morning, if it was 10 o'clock at night, I couldn't go to bed, she'd make me jump on a trampoline for 40 minutes, and that would burn up some calories, and I was able to go to sleep and sleep through the night. Mm-hmm. And when I tell people, you have to exercise every day, a lot of people say, well, I don't have time for that. There's just no time for that. And
right,
you got to find time, It's worth it.
In place of drugs, basically. You are creating your own body chemistry by utilizing the energy in this way and changing your hormones and changing the way the absorption of your food, your digestion, the insulin, making the pancreas work properly. You're basically putting the organs into balance by doing what your body must do. And so you tell us about your exercise regimen since the time of your childhood. What have you done?
Well, the first thing I started doing was I started running. I started jogging. And, I'd never jogged before. So if you're thinking, well, I can't do this. The first time I went on a jog, I ran a couple blocks and I was tired. And out of necessity, I kept doing it. And I got to a place where I was running 4 to 6 miles every single day. Since then, I still run 2 or 3 times a week. I've been going to CrossFit, which is like a high-intensity, intense workout. I dance. I mean, every single day I do 2 or 3 things still that get me sweating, get my blood and lymph pumping, and that list is huge. I snowboard. I salsa dance. I'm currently going to 3 hip hop dance classes a week, and Russian kettlebells. If you can't afford any of that, just get some kettlebells and look up on the internet some basic exercises, and that would get your body pumping. And as mentioned earlier, perhaps one of the best exercises is just jumping on a trampoline, whether that be a big one or a small rebounder.
I'm going to have to get a little rebounder. I mean, I've heard this message over and over again, and I want you to tell us why you're emphasizing, and you've mentioned getting your lymph flowing. Can you explain what that's about?
Well, there's, your lymph, unlike your blood, is pumped by you actually doing physical exercise. There's no organ that really makes the lymph flow and move. So when you're running, jogging, shaking, jumping, it's just circulating through your whole body. It's just you're getting a full body cleanse kind of thing. And for diabetic, I mean, it's important for everybody, but especially for diabetics, to get that lymph pumping and to start getting stuff out of your body that doesn't need to be there, and start getting moving nutrients where it does need to go.
It's very important because it cleans out the proteins in the body. And then if you have the edema, it's very difficult for you to feel good and move around. And unfortunately, lymphedema, which is a chronic disease, can occur for many, many reasons, not just from diabetes. So we have a lot of folks on the chat today, and one of the people, Rochelle, is saying that she also was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and exercises most days with a low-carb, glycemic diet. And she says it's as if she has reversed it. So maybe we want to talk a little bit more about, unless you have more to say about exercise. I mean, maybe people need to put a plan into use. They need to make it an appointment on their calendar. And if somebody calls them and says, I need to have a meeting, you just have to say, well, I'm already in a meeting at that time, and do what needs to be done.
Absolutely. I think we're all guilty of not making time for certain things and then wasting time in other things. And me personally, if I don't have time to do something like exercise or something else that's important to me, I have to reevaluate my schedule and see what I can cut out. And usually maybe it's an hour of just wasting it on Facebook, or an hour of watching a show that really doesn't give anything to your life. Cut something out, add something in, and I promise you'll be much healthier and happier because of it.
And that exercise does more than just help you with the diabetic maintenance. It has all the endorphins, all the feel good hormones, just all the toning of your muscles, just everything.
Makes me be happy about life and want to continue it.
That's wonderful.
So what kind of diet you are taking in these days? Or do you have any special plan for the diet? Absolutely.
My current diet is, I'm a little bit in an experimental phase. For many years, I was extreme, 100% raw food, didn't eat any cooked food. These days, I have reintroduced some cooked food into my life, some sweet potatoes. So a typical day looks like I get up in the morning, I eat some fruit for breakfast. Right away, people might think, oh, if you're diabetic, you shouldn't eat fruit. I've found personally that fresh, organic, especially ripe fruit is not only not dangerous for diabetics, but actually helps them. When the fiber is still intact and the fruit juices are natural, I found that doesn't really spike my blood sugar, as opposed to eating processed sugars like cookies or sweets, or or even like a baked potato, or just something that turns to sugar pretty much when it's processed. So I eat some fruit. I'm a huge proponent of green smoothies, which is something my mom kind of invented. And that's basically blending organic green leafy vegetables with organic fruit in a blender. It makes a nice, delicious drink that is easy to intake, and it's full of nutrients. Then I go about my day. I don't. That's usually enough for breakfast. Huge salad for lunch, maybe a wrap or a little bit of quinoa, some sweet potatoes, and then some kind of walnut pate with some nori and some sea vegetables, more greens for dinner, fruit anytime I want, kind of thing.
That sounds really, really good. And one of the things that people don't realize is when they eat all the white kind of processed foods with white sugar and the carbohydrates that are high glycemic, those things are going to satisfy you only for a very short time, and your blood sugar level is going to be going in spikes. It's going to go up and down very quickly, and it's not going to maintain a good energy level for you. You're going to be craving more to eat. Whereas what you just described, it's going to be very satisfying to your body. It's going to fulfill you and provide you enough energy to get through your day, and it's going to be really colorful, very colorful.
And one question in the chat, Kavita is asking, how much meat do you eat?
How much
meat is something
Yes.
that I've experimented with lately. I wouldn't say that I eat meat or even like eating meat, because for 14 years I was a very strict vegan. And then because I feel like since I'm talking about health, I always need to experiment on myself before giving other people advice. I started eating small amounts of fish here and there, and I'm currently undecided. I don't want to really comment on that because I don't have enough information to really tell people one way or the other. I certainly don't like the idea of eating animals, but I'm still in the process of seeing how that feels on my body. So
I understand. Go ahead.
Yeah. Here I want to share one thing. In the latest criteria of diet, for the diabetes mellitus, there is no restriction for anything. You can eat each and everything in the when you are diabetic, but you will take only a small quantity of that material. Like if you like the meat, you can just take whatever your body needs.
Mm-hmm.
You just not take half chicken or a full plate of chicken. You just take a piece of the meat, and you can take each and everything in the latest criteria of diabetic diet.
Well, I think that it sounds like Sergey is opening up to experimenting with more and a variety of foods. And basically, when you're diagnosed with a chronic illness, something that's going to impact and affect your life so drastically, you become very strict in what you want to do to heal yourself. And I myself, when I was diagnosed with cancer, I was a strict vegan for a full year. I didn't have a piece of chocolate. I didn't have any sugar at all. You know, it's kind of a life and death situation. And then over time, you kind of relax. Now, I don't think that you should relax to the point of not caring for yourself, but I think that you weigh the pros and cons of everything and see what does your body feel good with? How does your body get upset with eating certain foods, or does it feel good? You know, I believe in eating fish, but I also am very concerned today about the heavy metals that are in our fish and the contamination of our oceans. And I feel that eating is not only sustaining itself, but sustaining the planet. And when you talk about eating animals, and, you know, I've seen just one too many videos that turn me off to wanting to eat meat or chicken, or, I mean, I'd have a chicken as a pet. But they're really lovely and productive animals, and you think of an egg being 100% whole food that's really good for you if it's completely organic and free range and everything. But I also am concerned about the planet as well as humanity, as our own health, and what can I do to contribute to that. I think we have some more folks. Gabrielle is chatting and Kavita is chatting. Rochelle, if you want to call in, you can. Sarah Vanan, I don't know if he's a good friend of yours, but he has been telling me how excited he was that you were going to be on the show today. Mm-hmm. He said diabetics could take most fruits except pineapple and watermelon. Maybe he has a reason for saying that, whereas Rochelle says pineapple is fine for her.
Yeah, I ate tons of watermelon. In fact, we lived not too far from a watermelon farm in Denver when I was diagnosed, and I literally ate hundreds of them.
And I think that I've read that in Chinese medicine books that there's watermelon diets. And when
yes.
And I recently saw if you do have a smoothie blender, that you put the whole, with seeds and all, that you're going to get all of the fiber and all of the nutrients out of the plant. And they even put strawberries with the little green tops on. So tell us about how you prepare your foods, on how you went into the the greens and the wild edibles.
Sounds great. So if you're interested in green smoothies specifically, I invite you to visit our website, Green Smoothies blog. It has all the information about what exactly you put in there. So if you forget anything that I'm saying, greensmoothiesblog.com.
Okay.
But basically, the idea is that it's easier to add to your diet than take away. Not everybody's going to become a raw foodist overnight and eliminate wheat and dairy and sugar and that kind of thing. So instead, we advocate taking nature's healthiest stuff, which is fruits and organic greens, blending them and adding it to your diet. And all the studies and stuff we've conducted, all the experiments, are very... They illustrate basically that people who don't change their diet and just incorporate about a quart or a liter of smoothie in their diet every day experience significant health benefits. So that's number one. Number two, I'm a huge advocate of wild edibles these days because wild edibles have longer root systems. They're not as modified as other store-bought foods, be it genetically modified or just hybridized. So, for example, when you see a dandelion growing, it has those long roots that can penetrate below the depleted topsoil, draw out incredible nutrients. So this green is actually better than any store-bought green that you could ever buy, and it's free. So my website, sergeybutenko.com, is dedicated specifically to wild edibles, and there's a lot of free videos and tutorials and information about that. And I advocate people to go out. I teach them how to identify things that are edible. We're lucky in that on this planet there are thousands of edible plants and very few poisonous ones. So in my lectures and stuff, I talk about how to identify the poisonous ones, how to be very safe and cautious. And I've gotten to the point where in my garden now, when I plant a conventional garden, I also have a weed garden, and I let certain things sprout up, and then I see that, for example, this weed is lamb's quarters, and I'll do things to help the lamb's quarters to spread so that I have more variety in my diet, and eating weeds and wild edibles becomes very easy. I just go in my backyard, snip them in the blender, blend them with fruit. Boom, I have the best nutrition for the day.
And it tastes good too. And bitters are really, really good for your health. And
bitters, are incredible. Dandelions, through all my research, have come up repeatedly as being one of the best foods for dandelions. Not only because their bitters help to cleanse organs, but that there are things in the dandelion itself that mimic insulin and help reduce blood sugar very quickly. So if you take away one thing from anything that I've said today, it's that if you have diabetes, you may want to try eating or incorporating dandelions into your diet.
Yes, and they actually do have them in the stores today. You can find them. And you can find them in your garden too, and think of them as something healthy for you and not as a weed, as something that's there for you to pick and enjoy. You can put the yellow flower into your salads. You can put the leaves into your salads. The baby ones really taste good. There are a lot of plants that you can do that with, and you have a special application for the folks out there who are interested in that.
If you're interested in wild edibles specifically and you don't know what to look for, if you have an iPhone, sorry everybody else, I haven't yet gotten to Android phones or whatever, but there's an iPhone application I released that's called Wild Edibles. It's $2.99 through iTunes, and it's basically like having me in the palm of your hand. You can take it with you wherever you go, and it has pictures, descriptions, recipes for different wild edibles, and I think that it's a very great product. I'm proud of it, and
yes, that must have been a lot of hard work.
It's cheaper than a cup of coffee, I'll tell you that much.
And better for you. If you check it out, go to sergeybutenko.com. On the right-hand side, you'll see the Wild Edibles application. You just click that, and you'll see many, many great comments and testimonials to folks who like to do this on. if you're dumpster diving, you don't need to. You can go out if you have a park or a forest, or go in your wilderness area. You can find these plants, and wild edibles like to grow in the cracks of the cements around, so you can probably find them once you learn how to identify the plant.
Yeah, and there's plenty of safety tips about how to harvest in urban environments, because there are some environments in which you don't want to harvest, environments that have been sprayed with pesticides, other chemicals and stuff, and I address all of that. And also, the subject of applications, we also have a green smoothie app. So green smoothies, if you're fancy, you can also find that app on iTunes as well.
Oh, so you have two of them, huh?
We have 4 apps. We have 2 educational ones. Well, they're all educational, but we have the Wild Edible iPhone app. We have the Green Smoothie app. I recently just released a new game. It's called the Green Smoothie Game. Yeah. And it's geared towards younger kids between 5 and 12.
We're losing sound here. Yeah.
Basically, that teaches them about green smoothies, and there's a free version out there, so check it out. You might like it.
That sounds like fun. So we know that getting kids to eat right is difficult, but if you make it into a smoothie drink, they will really love it and enjoy it, and you can get their nutrition that way, their fiber that way. If you mix it up with some fresh pears or fresh peaches in the blender, and you really can't go wrong with it. You'll probably drink it up before you give it to your kids. So what else do we want to find on your website? You have some recipes also for mixed.
I have everything you could ever want on my website that's related to green smoothies and diabetes and wild edibles.
And there's some great videos too.
There's some great funny videos, educational. I really like humor in terms of teaching people. Like, for example, the last couple of years I've been getting a lot of emails that say, hey, went to the forest, I ate this plant, and then I felt kind of sick. Well, the number one rule behind wild edibles is don't eat something if you don't know what it is. That's just kind of a common sense rule that keeps people safe. And I was so shocked to get so many of these similar emails that I created a music video with a song titled Don't Eat Something If You Don't Know What It Is. I like to educate people and use a little bit of humor because I think it's more memorable that way. And that way, if they're in the woods and they see a plant they don't know what, they're not familiar with, they can at least hear my chorus in their head. And
Sergey, go ahead and turn off your video and turn it on again because it's frozen. Yeah.
How about this?
Well, we'll wait a second and see. Yeah, that's it.
And Dr. Sharma, do you use any herbal tinctures, mother tinctures, for folks to keep their insulin level low?
Yes, we are using Sagizium jambulinum. We are using Gymnia sylvestra. We are using the acid phosphoric sometime, and we are also using a bitter gourd.
Kerala? Bitter melon?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So there are a good number of herbal mother tinctures that are used on a daily basis to maintain the sugar level, the blood sugar level. But in addition to that, that is just sort of like a crutch. That is sort of like a starter. I think that the diet and the exercise are premier for what you have to do to keep yourself in good health. If you're noticing that you're always tired, the frequent urination problem, sudden weight loss, wounds that won't heal, feeling like you're always hungry, you have a tremendous appetite, problems with your sex life, blurry vision, vaginal infections, numbness or tingling of your hands and feet, and feeling always thirsty. These are key symptoms toward finding a diagnosis of diabetes. And so if you notice this, see your doctor and find out what's going on with you. I understand that, Sergey, you did try a little homeopathy when you did have some numbness.
Mm-hmm.
And it might not be the answer all the time, but we have to investigate for ourselves and take responsibility for our health.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people, once they hear that I healed myself of diabetes or whatever, they send me emails and they tell me, what can I do exactly? And unfortunately, I don't think there is an exact recipe for any one person. I think that we're all different, and it's up to us to take charge of our health and figure out what exactly works. I just challenge the mainstream view, where I ask people to be brave enough to consider the possibility that there's something that they could do other than take insulin shots for the rest of their life. I know certainly that it works because it's helped me. I've met hundreds of other people with type 1 and type 2 diabetes that have benefited from it. And I kind of just want to apologize to people ahead of time because I will not give you any kind of concrete, specific recipe, but I will give you a couple things you could try if you're willing that will likely help you with diabetes, and that is the green smoothies and the wild edibles. Just eating fiber a lot of times eradicates type 2 diabetes. There's a great book out there by Myron Winnick. It's called The Fiber Prescription. And it's all about how Americans, and sadly most people in the world today, they eat a lot of foods that are very low in fiber. And one of the key roles that fiber plays is in elimination. It takes stuff that shouldn't be in your body and eliminates it in an easy manner. And it also eliminates excess sugar in your blood. So if you're eating things like, things that contain fiber, it's going to be less an issue, if not a non-issue altogether. Your blood sugar is not going to spike. But if you're eating Wonder Bread and potatoes and then drinking a sugary soda on top of that, of course you're going to have problems managing your sugar.
It always goes back to whole foods, about keeping the synergy of the nutrients, the vitamins, everything that's in there that God gave us from nature, and the fiber, which is so important to slowing digestion down so that the correct amount of everything can be absorbed and utilized and then eliminated properly. And so that's really important. We've got tons of stuff going on in the chat. We're going to speak up about that, but I believe our producer Amnon has a question.
I was just going to make a comment. I mean, I'm type 2. My daughter is type 1. And we find out that what I do will not work for her, not everything, and vice versa. So there are certain, especially with exercise. I mean, if she exercises, her blood sugar will go down within 10, 15, 20 minutes. I can exercise all I want, and I may see a result the next day. So there are different things. You were talking about watermelon.
Right.
Again, I think what the person meant, I mean, if you eat just watermelon, you're going to spike any way you look at it because it's full of sugar. And if you don't put anything else in the body, then yeah. But I think you're right not to talk about it. Keep it and put a patent on it. joke.
But he does give us recipes for smoothies. But it's not a recipe for health. You have to find your own balance.
Actually on that note, I just remembered something else. My uncle, who lives up in Canada, he's a truck driver. He has type 2 diabetes, and he's a typical Russian man who's slowly coming around to eating healthier and managing it through diet. But one thing he noticed is that if he doesn't eat after 6 p.m. at night, his blood sugar will be normal the next day. If he eats late at night, it's going to be spiked the next day. It's going to go through those lulls and spikes. So that's another thing that is worth addressing is that in modern society, we're all guilty of it, myself especially, is eating late at night. So that's not good for your body. We're supposed to be sleeping when the sun is down.
Right. We have to live in harmony with the planets and the biorhythm of the earth and the sun and the moon. And that would really help us a great deal, because in Chinese medicine, I keep going back to traditional Chinese medicine, TCM, because they have a clock for when each organ turns on and starts to work. And so that's why having your fruit in the morning when you first wake up, that's really a beautiful thing they've always done. We have so much talk back here. We have Gabrielle is talking about vitamin D, that you can get it with 15 minutes of sunshine on your arms daily. The provitamin is in your body. If there is enough calcium, it will work. And Sarah Venan also talks highly about the vitamin D element, that we need to have. Yes, Dr. Sharma, you're talking about this. We have Dr. Neil Bernard's program for reversing diabetes, recommended by Dr. Sarah Venan. And I did put up the fiber diet. I put that into the chat. We have low glycemic bread from the baker. Rochelle is able to get that. So we have a lot of things going on here about how people are handling their own health. And Kavitha talks about the importance of zinc for the nervous system. And so zinc is coming from some of our foods, Dr. Sharma?
Yes, and Mr. Rochelle is given the best tip. He says, I was given was to eat fruit with a meal, not between meals. That's Rochelle said in the chat.
Okay.
In the last.
So she said, only eat the meals. And I also was reading to eat just 2 main meals, maybe 3 main meals. But, a lot of people are telling you to have lots of small meals all through the day. And this doesn't give your digestion a chance to fully complete a cycle, is what I have read, so that you're going to find your breakfast still there in the nighttime if you keep feeding the system. It's like he explained it as if you were firing up an engine or something where you keep fueling that engine, and you don't give the stomach and the digestion enough time to actually finish what it's doing initially, and then restart, pumping your car up and then a finish.
And Debbie, that's a great example of how confusing everything can be in the health industry and like kind of in the health field. And there's a lot of contradictory, everybody's giving you contradictory advice. In fact, there was a time when we were traveling around the United States trying to learn how to eat the absolute most pristine, best diet. And we'd go to the East Coast, for example, and people would tell us, don't eat greens because if you're eating greens, they're from the opium family, and you're all high if you're all eating greens. Then we'd go to the East Coast or the West Coast, and people would say, don't eat fruit. Fruits have been hybridized. They're full of sugar. If you eat fruits, they turn to alcohol in your system, so you're all going to get drunk. And then they'd tell us, don't eat nuts because they're non-natural,
oh my goodness,
et cetera. And there was a day when we had nothing left to eat because all of these people, they had very convincing scientific evidence. And then at one point, a lady told us, well, if you have nothing else to eat, perhaps you might want to consider breatharianism, which, of course, is just living off prana and not eating anything. And we were in LA at the time, and breatharianism requires fresh air, so we didn't even have that. And at that point, we decided that we were only going to try stuff on our bodies. That is part
of yoga.
Yeah, that is part of yoga.
Yeah.
But we'd only continue doing things that felt good, and we'd try everything. So personally, I've learned that my body loves it when I eat 2, maybe 3 meals a day and I don't snack in between. But it's likely that somebody will be out there who will do better on a lot of small meals throughout the day. It's up to you to figure that out.
That sounds good. You know, when you talk about that breatharian, I'm thinking even the Israelites in the desert with Moses had manna from heaven. They didn't just live on air. They actually were given food. And so I think that we are supposed to eat. That's why we have a mouth and teeth and tongue and digestive, enzymes for that. And it doesn't make sense not to eat. And we're supposed to partake of the beauty and richness of all of those fruits and nuts. And every other animal on the earth is doing it. And we're no different. We need to enjoy and relish and have family time enjoying together. It's healthy for you. And it improves your intellect. It improves your brain function. There's no question about it. So you really were on quite a trip, if going from.
Yeah, I mean, the breatharian thing lasted about 15 minutes, but it's a little bit of a joke. But
yeah,
it illustrates my point, I think.
And Dr. Sharma, have you ever heard people think that diabetes is contagious?
No, I never heard it.
Yeah,
it's.
Some people might think so. They do. It's like a myth, and because when another person is ill, some people are afraid of that illness or afraid of that person or afraid of catching it. Have you come across that, Sergey?
No, I've actually never heard that.
Yeah, and so the only thing that you stay away from is processed sugar. The fruit sugars are fine for you.
In my experience, that has been true for me. Yep. When I first got diagnosed, because we switched to a raw food diet pretty quickly, and half of the things I was allowed to eat were fruits, the other half being vegetables. Even though my doctors told me I shouldn't eat it, I was like, well, I can't cut it out because that's literally 50% of everything that I am allowed to eat. So I started conducting pretty vigorous experiments on myself. One thing I would do is I would eat various foods, and I would test my blood sugar manually every 15 minutes just to see what it was doing. And what I noticed is if I ate like a cookie or candy, something that had processed sugar, my blood sugar would spike, continue going up, and then I'd have this crash. Whereas if I would eat fruit with fiber intact, my blood sugar would go up a little bit, and then it would kind of level out and stay normal. Even with raw fruit juices, sometimes my sugar would get spiked. Like if I juiced a bunch of carrots, some apples, and drank a juice, even though it was nutritious, it didn't have that fiber, and I would get a little bit of a spike. But if I made a smoothie with the fiber still intact or ate whole fruit, usually it was a non-issue.
So we're getting a lot of controversial comments that some people say eat fruit only on an empty stomach or eat fruit with your meal. And it sounds like, based on your experiment, that you have to try for you how you're going to process that food the best. Are you going to try getting up and having the fruit on an empty stomach or midday or in the evening and see how you feel? See whether any of those symptoms that would indicate diabetes come on again, or whether you're feeling pretty good about it, and then test it with eating something else and see if that makes a difference. So really we are individuals, and this is why we're on the planet. We have to do it our own way.
And if you're really concerned about, high sugar fruits like bananas, there are other things you can eat. Like, for example, blueberries are a great pancreas regenerating food. They're low glycemic index. Apples are a low GI index, and there are other foods that you can eat and make green smoothies out of. Like, for example, you don't have to make a sweet green smoothie. You could make a savory green smoothie using some bell peppers and tomatoes and some greens, and it would taste more like a savory soup. And that's just as beneficial if you're worried about sweet fruit. So, just FYI.
So, are you concerned about? I mean, you're saying you're doing a little bit of cooked food. like, would you have vegetable soup? Would you put that, the peppers and the cabbage and all that stuff into the blender and whip it up until it's hot like they do today? Is that okay with you?
I mean, yeah, I would do that, but what I was specifically referring to is that if you're worried about sweet fruit and you don't, for example, want to make a green smoothie where you put bananas and oranges and fruits, you could, like, if you're a diabetic and you're worried about it, you can make a green smoothie out of those same greens, like collard or spinach greens, with some bell pepper and tomato. You blend all of those up, and you have, in effect, kind of a savory smoothie. It's a green smoothie that's low glycemic index.
So it's your spicy. You could add a little cayenne pepper and give a different kind of flavor.
Exactly.
Right. So the top vegetables that I saw for diabetes are a lot of them in the cruciferous family, and broccoli, asparagus, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, cauliflower, cucumber, spinach, and tomatoes. And I've also seen people start up with tons of celery.
Yeah.
That's really a wonderful vegetable that we have on this planet. So we're really fortunate to be given them. And what we need to do is take care of our earth. Our time is just about up. So I want to give you both a chance to say a few words before we end the show.
Let's hear from Dr. Sharma. I think that I've been ranting a lot, so I'm interested in what you have to say.
Yes, and I want to clear one more thing regarding the fruits. According to Ayurveda, these are the herbal therapy in India. They always saying that you never take a fruit with the meal. You never take a fruit with the milk. You never take a fruit at night. And if you are taking the fruits in empty stomach in the morning, these are the best timing for the fruits. These are from the Ayurveda.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Well, we see that we have a lot of different concepts, theories, and diets that you can test for yourself. Remember, the Health In Show is educational and informational, just a discussion and a conversation. And if you do need some medical care, you need to see your physician. And Sergey, am I pronouncing your name properly?
Yep, totally.
Okay. Give us parting words, something to propel us forward.
I think that we as humans all deserve to be healthy. I think that's our birthright. It's not, just for the rich or the people that of a certain race or color. And I think that wild edibles and greens and stuff allow us to experience that birthright to be healthy. So I hope that people don't write them off right away and give them some thought and consideration.
Well, we'll be checking in with your website, with your app, and for those folks who want to do wild edibles. And I have my own theories about wild plants, how hardy they are, and how they have learned to be resistant to the environmental onslaughts. And if we just encourage that instead of destroy areas of our planet, then we're going to have a lot of great plants to provide us for healing remedies in the future. I don't remember what we're going to do next Monday, but we will have our show on Blog Talk Radio with Dr. Adil Chimtalawala Kasim about heart health. And I think he's talking about breast masses. And it's going to be a big show about that. And on Thursday, we're going to have on Blog Talk Radio Alan Phillips talking about vaccinations and your rights in the United States. I want to thank Dr. Sharma for tuning in on his evening from New Delhi, and Sergey waking up early in the morning. You're out west, right?
Yep, in Oregon.
In Oregon. Beautiful place to be. I'm wishing
Thank you so much for hosting us.
It's been great.
Thank you so much.
So everyone, take care of your health. Sending lots of love.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Sergey.
Bye-bye.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now, with Amnon Nissan, Sundays 9 a.m. to noon. Health In with Debby Bruck, Mondays 11 a.m. to noon. The Scope of Things with Marilyn Shannon, Mondays 7 to 8 p.m. Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Mondays 8 to 9 p.m. Body Talk with Cindy Prince, first Tuesdays 8 to 9 p.m. Reawaken Your Brilliance with Julie Seibert, Wednesdays 8 to 9 p.m. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by thatvidblasterguy.com, carolinaapparel.com, and deltaforce.net.